All right, everybody. I am here talking with Khara Crossway Brindle about her new book that is all about estrangement and tough dynamics between mothers and daughters. I'm so excited to talk to you about this.
Thank you, Kate. I'm excited to talk about it too. It's, as we said offline, a hot topic. So I know there's probably some questions that I need to answer about what this book's about.
Yeah. So, for the people who are watching this who may not really understand estrangement or even what we're talking about, do you have kind of a short definition of what estrangement is?
Yeah, so there's kind of two different types of estrangement that I'm quoting from Dr. Aglias, who did some research. And she would say that there's physical estrangement, which means like this distance where we don't see a family member. We're talking about family estrangement, specifically mother-daughter. So physical estrangement would be like, I don't see you, I don't spend time with you, we don't do holidays together, like we have no contact physically, versus like the emotional estrangement, which might be more of like a slow burn, where we're like, emotionally distancing, maybe less phone calls, maybe I'm not sharing as much information about my life with my mom. And so for a lot of people, that feels like a slower transition to full estrangement versus physical estrangement feels more abrupt and faster for people to say, I am physically estranged from my parent and we don't speak. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, does it really indicate a point of no return in a relationship, or are there some situations where it's a temporary spaciousness that then invites repair?
That's a great question. So for a lot of people, there is hope for like reconciliation or repair. For a lot of parents, the hope is that they can reconcile depending on what's happened. But there's no guarantee. It really depends on what's going on in that dynamic. And so there are people that might reconcile a year later, 20 years later, never. I mean, it just depends on the person. But I know there are lots of books out there that talk about how to reconcile or how to work towards reconciliation, which this book touches on, but doesn't go into that as much as it does the causes of estrangement in mother-daughter relationships.
Right. So, how come the mother-daughter specificity with this book?
I really wanted to do justice to my clients that were coming in. So, as a mental health professional, I had noticed kind of a pattern. Well, not even kind of, I did notice a pattern with my female clients that were coming from all different backgrounds and how they related to their moms. And so, as I noticed that pattern, I started to map it out into what I call an estrangement energy cycle of like, there's just certain places they land. And depending on where they are, they could be in any one of these stages when they come into therapy. But for so many of them, it's emotional, it's traumatic, it feels like grief and loss, it feels like someone's died. Because in a way, it does feel like a death when it comes to the relationship rupturing.
Absolutely. I see a lot of that in my clinical practice too. And it is common for me too with women and their
Mm-hmm.
mothers. So interesting that we both see that parallel.
Yeah.
So your book is available for pre-order now and it's coming out in July. Is that right?
Yep. July 15th is our release date as of right now.
So what's your dream for this book? I know you've put a lot of love and research and your clinical skill and some of your personal observations and just all kinds of things into the book. I'd love to hear about all of that magic you've embedded and just what you hope to see happen when it reaches people.
Thank you, Kate. That was beautifully said. I think there's kind of two audiences for this book. Of course, there's the clinicians like you and I who are working with women, adult daughters who are trying to figure out how to navigate this wherever they are in the journey. Maybe their goal is reconciliation, or maybe their goal is to heal from this estrangement itself and rework how they see themselves. And so that's named in the book of like women can come in at any stage and go in any direction. And so part of the mission is to have clinical skills and just some compassion and zero judgment for those clients doing that work. And so this book is meant for clinicians to help them develop that skill set to say, I can do this. I can do this without bias, without my own opinion or my own mother daughter relationship coming into it. And I think I did that relatively well. I'm really excited to see what people think of the stories that I included. So I have some client stories that illustrate estrangement of what that can look like and why. So I think that's going to really help the community. The second group, of course, is the adult daughters. And so if they were to pick up this book, my hope is they'd feel heard, seen, validated. When I was doing research for this book, there are tons of books out there for the parents of how to help them heal, how to reconcile, how to do their own work. But there wasn't a lot of voices out there for the adult women of what this is like for them. And so I'm hopeful that if they were to pick up this book, they would feel like they're not alone in this, because they say 1 in 12 people is estranged from at least one family member. So they really aren't alone, but it feels very lonely.
Absolutely. And I imagine there's probably a third category of clinicians who are also women who are estranged, right? And have kind of
Yes.
that double dip experience. So I think it has a lot of value for so many people.
Thank you.
Um, there has been so much buzz around certain words about, or phrases even like toxic relationships,
Yes.
gaslighting was the Merriam-Webster word of 2022 because it was used so often online. So we hear a lot about toxicity, relationship dissatisfaction. We hear about manipulation. How does that play into the ways that people might feel that they are estranged or need to separate from their mother?
Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely plays into it. We actually talk about the word toxicity in this book. I actually go through like the top 10, 9 or 10, I think, things that people assume about estrangement, everything from someone's mental health to abuse to toxicity to just feeling minimized and undervalued in the relationship. And so I actually go through those 9 or 10 things to say, like, is this justification for estrangement? Is this what's causing estrangement to be possible? Is this something that adult children are pursuing, right? We had the popular bestseller from Dr. Lindsay Gibson, right, of like adult children of emotionally immature parents. And that book was really well received and very popular in the mental health space because people wanted an explanation for what was going on in their family relationships, specifically with parents. And so I think this book is going to help people say, yes, there is something really important to the mother daughter relationship, but it doesn't mean that you are not a whole person if you don't have the mother daughter relationship later in your life. So if you do choose estrangement, you're not less than someone who has a connected mother daughter relationship. Just giving them another way to look at things.
That seems so important because it's such a dominant relationship in people's lives. It's really your first relationship before you're even born.
Mm-hmm.
It's an early modeling experience about what it means to be an adult, to be a woman, what love means, what family means. And so there's so much depth and embedded narrative around mother and daughter. And I appreciate that you're applying a clinical lens to it and you're sharing case studies and you're sharing research. And I just think that it's going to be a really valuable resource for so many people.
Thank you. I hope so. I mean, again, I feel like my hope was it's approachable, it's neutral, it's not saying, yes, go for reconciliation, yes, go for estrangement. It's just holding space for the whole experience, everything from questioning and identifying abuse patterns to pursuing estrangement or not, and then redefining self if you do pursue estrangement, because there's a grief and loss component. And then, as you said, it's interwoven into everything we do. We just got through a holiday. Holidays are very triggering for people who are estranged from their loved ones. So I even have a chapter on like what to do and what not to do if someone in your life is estranged, because I really wanted people to feel like they had language of how to navigate what feels like a minefield of, oh, you're not talking to your parents. Do I even ask about family? Do I ask if you're doing holidays? Like it feels like it's a hot button there. So I'm hopeful that chapter will be useful to the whole community and how to navigate estrangement.
I look forward to that. It sounds like there's a real synergy of how to tools and research that comes from empirical data and observations that come from your perspective. And it just seems like it's a really well-rounded, supportive, but also potentially a challenging resource that can ask people to kind of level themselves up in the way that they hold accountability for their relationships and for the part that they play with the people who are problematic in their lives.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll see what the community has to say because I imagine we'll get all sorts of responses based on it being such a important and emotional topic.
Yeah, for sure. So where can people find more? Where can they learn about it or purchase it? Do you have events that you want to share that are around this?
Yeah. So right now, I mean, we're still working on events and book signings because I would love to meet people in person, of course. Right now, the pre-order is happening. So that's on Amazon. We'll put a link below this video so people can find that. And then, of course, it'll be available through the publisher. I'll be at ACA next year to have a little book fair where I'm sitting there with other authors talking about this book in particular. So that's 2024 in New Orleans for the ACA conference. And I'm sure we'll have many other things coming up. So I'll try to keep that everyone posted on where I'll be and hopefully see how people respond to this book.
Amazing. Well, I've already pre-ordered my copy. I can't wait to
Thank
dig
you.
in. And I really appreciate that you're putting this work out into the world. I think it's important.
Thank you, Kate. I appreciate being able to talk about it. And thank you again for having me to even just broach this with the community at large. I'm excited to just see what people think and what they hear in this video and how we all go forward. So thank you again.
Thank you.